Okay, everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag
The
of
flag.
the United States of America and to the
to the
republic
republic
for
which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
visible,
with liberty and
liberty,
justice for all.
Justice for all.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Supervisor, any changes to the agenda?
I have no changes.
I have none.
Okay, we move on to item 5. the
No, I
approval
thought
of the-
I'm sorry, Betty, did you say you had none? I thought you said you had one. I'm
No, I-
sorry. Okay, we'll keep going.
Okay, we move on to item 5, the approval of the audit.
Looking for a motion to approve this audit in the amount of $631,834.52.
Make a motion.
I'll make the motion. I'm sorry, I'll second your motion, Paul.
Any discussion? Mrs. Green,
Abstain.
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes.
Mr. Manley,
Yes,
Mr. Lobiondo,
yes,
and Mr. Piacquadio.
Yes,
Okay, next we go on to item 6, New York State Disability Insurance Award to Standard Security.
all right, so we got an alternate price for disability insurance. And we can switch it over almost on a month-to-month basis, but currently we're with Hartford Insurance. And with price we got from Standard Security will save us in premiums $2,300 per year in premium. So I'm looking for a motion to make Standard Security our disability carrier as soon as the policy can take effect. Someone want to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Mrs.
One
Green?
quick question.
Yes.
We're getting the same apples to apples, all right? With this
Yes, we
policy?
are. And they're a very good rated company too in New York
Okay.
State. Yep. And Hank Chapman is the agent for this company too, so.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes.
Mr. Manley,
Yes,
Mr. Lobiondo,
yes,
and Mr. Piacquadio.
Yes,
Next, we go on to item 7 for the Recreation Department. First item A is purchase of a copier.
all right, so this is to purchase a Kola multifunction copier, and it also makes trifolds and mail outs, all types of things, but the current copier is at the end of its life and not functioning. So our Commissioner Pursuti is asking to purchase this machine. So it'll be a Toshiba ES4515AC, which is on state bid, and the total price of $7,271. Someone want to make that motion?
So moved. I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes.
Mr. Manley,
yes,
Mr. Lobiondo,
yes,
and Mr. Piacquadio.
Yes,
Now we go on to item B for the Recreation Department. Start process to hire part-time laborer.
all right, again, Jim Pursuti is requesting just what Mr. Petty says. This is going to start the process for a part-time laborer, and this is basically at the guard shack. So someone want to make that motion?
I'll make that motion too.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes.
Mr. Manley,
Yes,
Mr. Lobiondo,
yes,
and Mr. Piacquadio.
Yes,
Next, we go on to item C for the Recreation Department, duty-free lunch.
all right, and we do this every year, and again, it's usually for those in the guard shack. This is a duty-free lunch for those working at the guard shack at Chadwick Lake Park. So someone want to make a motion that it'd be duty-free lunch for those individuals?
I'll make it a threesome. So move.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Green,
yes,
Mr. Ruggiero,
yes,
Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiando,
yes,
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes.
Last item for Recreation Department is item D, Chadwick Lake Park Concert Series.
All right, so here again, Commissioner Pursuti is looking to expend $3,500 from the T38 account, which again is a donation account, not taxpayer money. And this will be for expenses for 7 events to be held from June to September for $3,500. I don't know if someone want to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Green,
yes,
Mr. Ruggiero,
yes,
Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiando,
Yes,
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes.
Hold on, my lights went out. Okay, I'm back. Next, we go on to item 8 for the assessor. Resolution per executive order to waive the renewal application requirement for senior and disabled property tax exemption.
All right, so normally if you have any type of exemption as a senior or disabled, you have to file that by March 1st, and if you didn't file it, you do not receive it. So that this resolution is saying the town is going to go back to March 1st and make it retroactive to give those seniors and disabled those, still have those property advantages, whether it's due to COVID-19 or otherwise. So if you filed last year, you're going to be good again for this coming year. So I'm looking for a motion to approve this resolution for seniors and the disabled.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second your motion.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Green,
Yes,
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes,
Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiando,
yes,
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes.
Next, we go on to item 9 for the Police Department. Approval to purchase ammunition.
All right, again now, Chief Bruce Campbell is looking to purchase ammunition. He has it in his account, and the total cost of the ammunition is $13,403.29, and that will be from Eagle Point Gun. And it's in his account for this year under account 03030.499. So someone want to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Green,
yes,
Mr. Ruggiero,
yes,
Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiando,
Yes,
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes.
Next, we go on to item 10, resolution for Chadwick Lake Reservoir and water filtration plant improvements. There'll be 3 motions.
Yes, and,
No, I'm sorry. No, I beg your pardon. 2 motions. I'm sorry.
right, okay, all right. So here it looks like we're spending a lot of money, but we're receiving $1.8 million from New York City to improve the aqueduct, improve the reservoir due to the shutdown from New York City's aqueduct. So the first is a public interest order. So basically, it's a public interest order in a matter of to increase the improvements of the facilities at the Consolidated Water District in the town of Newburgh, Orange County, New York. So that'll be our first motion right there. Someone want to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion? Mrs. Green,
Yes,
Mr. Ruggiero,
yes,
Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiando,
yes,
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes. And the second part is actually the bond resolution. And again, we are bonding it. And then when it's complete, we'll receive the money from New York City. That'll be the fastest way to do it. So the bond resolution authorized the issuance of $1,823 $1,000 and $900. Bonds of the Town of Newburgh, Orange County, New York, to pay the cost of the increase and improvement of the facilities of the Consolidated Water District in the Town of Newburgh, Orange County, New York. So that'll be the motion for 10B.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Mrs. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes.
Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes.
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes.
And next we go on to the engineering department for the Chadwick Lake Filter Plant Resiliency Improvement. This is the one that has 3 motions.
Correct. And again, these improvements are being funded by New York City with the exception of the engineering. But here would be a motion to award HDR Engineering Support Services, including shop drawings for the Department of Environmental Protection and Department of Health for Chadwick Lake improvements in the amount of $9,664. Someone want to make that motion?
So move.
May I have a second, please?
I'll second it. Go ahead, Scott.
I got it. Thank you.
Councilman Manley seconded the motion. Any discussion? Mrs. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes.
Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes.
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes.
Now we go on to the second motion.
All right. The second motion will be again, HDR Engineering for shop drawings and designs and review with the trailer once a manufacturer is selected in the amount of $16,472. Looking for that motion.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Mrs. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes.
Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes.
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes.
And we go on to the last motion.
So that'll be a motion to hire HDR Engineering to oversee the construction phase services for the entire project in the amount of $149,096. Someone want to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second your motion.
Any discussion? Mrs. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes.
Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes.
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes.
And next, we're still in engineering. We're going to the Gardner Town Road Culvert Supplemental Agreement number 3.
All right. This is, if you remember, we're mainly getting federal funds to do this project. But what this is, the DOT rates for engineering have increased. And for our project, it's an increase of $28,849 for the Gardner Town culvert. So we're just going to approve that increase. And that, again, that's a DOT engineering charge. Someone want to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
It puts it to bed, finally.
Hopefully.
Councilman Lobiondo, did you make that motion, sir?
I did.
Thank you. May I have a second, please?
I'll second it then.
Thank you very much. Any discussion?
Can I ask Pat Hines a quick question?
Certainly.
Pat, you unmuted there? It says here that the, where'd it go? June of 2021 is going to start construction. Is that when the road's going to be closed, or is that when they're going to start doing all the forms before they close the road?
Oh, that one we got to ask Pat Hines. It's Pat Hines. He's here.
Yeah, I am. That is the start of construction, and they'll both be simultaneously done. The road's going to close, and we picked those dates because of the school buses issues will hopefully not be involved there, or if they are, for not very long. So the contractor and the engineers and the engineering office have worked out that as the start of construction date between June and completed by September in order to not obstruct the bus traffic. But the road's going to be closed basically from the start of construction until completion.
Okay, I know I talked to Jim Osborne last year when they first doing it, trying to push it for the summer. not
Yeah.
to affect the school.
Yep. It actually worked. Yeah, it all worked out that way.
Okay,
Okay.
any further discussion? Then we'll go on Mrs. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes,
Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes.
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes.
Next, we go on to item 12 for the town clerk's office, purchase of a copier.
All right, so again, from Joe Petty, he's for the clerk's office, he's requesting the purchase of a Toshiba copier, ES 3515 AC. Again, on state bid with a total price of $6,216.68. It's under state contract PM 68135. And he has it in his budget. Someone want to make that motion to approve that purchase?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second your motion.
Any discussion? Mrs. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Ruggiero,
yes,
Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes.
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes.
Next, we go on to item 13 for announcements.
All right, if I do my announcement first, I hope that spring is coming. And I hope we were ahead of the virus too, because it looks good right now. Betty, do you have any comments?
Happy St. Patrick's Day next week to all of you. That's it.
Paul, anything?
I'd just like to thank Heather for sitting in on our meeting tonight, our new Chamber of Commerce president. So,
Very
hello and
good.
thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Scott,
I think the three you covered everything I was going to mention, so I'm good. Thank you.
Anthony?
Have nothing.
All right, so with that, we'll go on to public comments. Bob, you see anybody out there that wants, if you want to talk, you could raise your hand or physically, or hit the little button for raise your hand.
Alan Crawford.
Alan Crawford. All right, Alan, you got the floor here.
No, he's still muted.
I'm just going down the list.
Okay,
There
Alan,
we
can you is he in? Is
Am
he
I in?
unmuted now? Yeah, you're in.
Good evening. I figured I'd join in. Gil, you gave me quite a interesting assignment there on those fireplaces.
Well, if anyone can handle it, it was you, Alan. So I gave it to the right
Well, I
person.
appreciate the confidence, but it is really a unique individual. They were from Captain Henry Robinson, and his farm is what we now call Washington Heights. The 100
Okay.
acres.
Oh, really? Okay.
So it's rather involved. I have put an inquiry out to the group or the society that handles the roll call for the USS frigate, the Constitution. And I'm waiting to hear back, but I can still put the order together. I've roughed up a lot of the stuff today, and I'm having fun with it.
Very good. Just for the others that don't know, is we come across some paperwork written by Mrs. Desmond in the Desmond estate, or at least Jim Pursuti came across it. We found it, and she claims 2 of the fireplaces came over on the U.S. frigate in the War of 1812,
Oh, wow.
used for ballast. And we have photos of it. They're great. Now we know where they came from. One from France, one from Italy. So Alan is really researching the whole thing here. So I think it'll make a good news story when it comes out. Thank you, Alan.
You're welcome. Lauren Mandel.
Okay. Lauren has a question. We go to Lauren.
Hi, everybody. I have a couple of questions. I just kind of took notes as we went along, so just forgive me for having a few. I just always wonder, when you guys say you did an audit, what are you guys auditing? Because I can never quite understand that.
Okay. Towns work in 2 ways. Either you have an audit or you have a controller. So we pass a budget at the beginning of the year. And if we had a controller, we would tell that controller, hey, just don't go over budget. Just keep spending the money. If you get in trouble, let us know. We don't operate that way. We have an audit. And at every audit meeting, we have an audit. So what that means is, if you notice, Mrs. Green abstained from the audit tonight. That means she did not review it. There's a stack, like tonight it was $600 and something thousand worth of bills. Every council person reviews those to make sure they look legitimate to them. And that's what an audit is. It's an audit of the bills to be paid. Then at the end, we will also have an auditor come in that we pay to audit, an independent auditor. And then whenever we want, the state will come in and audit those audits as well. So we're pretty well audited.
You're very well audited. That's why I asked. It's like you guys
Okay.
are always auditing, like what's going on?
Right.
That's what I wanted
And-
to ask.
Oh, I see. I got you. What else? Anything?
Yeah, and then I was just wondering regarding the donations for Chadwick, like where those donations come from? Is that like from the town of Newburgh Day and stuff? Or
Okay.
like
Our
concerts?
main,
and all that?
yeah. Our main donations are from Community Day, and we send out letters, and 90% of them are businesses that actually just donate, and that allows us to do the fireworks and everything else we have going at Community Day. But we have money left over. Usually we raise $25,000. The fireworks cost us 10. So we have money left over to do other things. That's what we're paying for, like musicians in the park and whatnot. And that's where that money comes from.
Awesome. Okay, I was just wondering. And
Okay.
and then all the other expenses that you guys were talking about in terms of the expenses for the improvement to the water system, that's all in relation to that $1.8 million that we're getting from New York City, right? That's what I was understanding.
Yes,
I reviewed the
and,
material. I was trying to sort it out.
Correct. And what happened there was New York City is we use the aqueduct, New York City's aqueduct, but it will be shut down. So they want to make sure we'll be self-sufficient with our own reservoir and sharing with New Windsor. So they gave us money to make improvements to make sure when they do shut down that we'll have enough water supply.
Okay, gotcha. That's what I thought. Okay. And then I just have one last question. And that's really regarding Chadwick Lake. So Jim, I'm sorry to ask you. I know you're not on the board, but I just wanted to ask this question. You know, I know Lap for Life isn't going to happen this year because of the pandemic. Madalena's not going to do the race. So we've been talking about maybe moving our Keep It Moving race to June. Do you guys think that you would be open for a race? I know we're still in the red zone, but I didn't know because now they have a lot of recommendations for having outdoor races in a safe environment. And I was wondering, is that something that Chadwick is open to at this time or not yet?
Is Jim Pursuti out there?
Yeah, I'm
Unmuted?
on. I
Okay.
finally got in. I had trouble with my computer earlier, but I finally got in.
Okay.
It depends on what mandates we have and where we are, what zone we're in, Lauren, as to whether we can do it.
Okay.
So we'll pay close attention to that. If you keep in touch with me, we can discuss it and see when you wanted to do that. And if it's something we can do, then I'm sure if we can fit it in, we'll do it. If not, like I say, it all depends on what's going on with that.
Right. I mean, I know right now, like I said, we're still red.
Yep.
You know, the city and the town are still red. Most places are waiting until things are orange. And, you know, hopefully by June we'll be in orange, but it's, you know, we don't really know. They're just talking about a fourth wave today. So who knows?
Yeah. So, well, just stay in touch with me and we'll see what we can do.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Anybody else, Bobby?
Bill Fetter.
All right, Bill, you want to unmute yourself? Bill Fetter?
Good evening, folks. How are you?
Good, thank you.
And if I missed it, I apologize. If there was any discussion on the chlorination issue at Chadwick, was that part of the upgrade, or is it old equipment that failed, or
All right, so
I
being
guess
you
that's all.
mentioned that, Bill, I'll give you an update on that because I did get a report just today on it. During the night, a chlorinator failed for about 8 hours, 6 to 8 hours, so no chlorine was put into the water. Because of that, we notified the Board of Health, and they said, well, boil your water till you can get it back up and running again. It only affected a part of the town, not the entire town either, but we said the whole town. So the pump was fixed. There was also an alarm that didn't report. That alarm line was out. That was fixed. Chlorine was put back in the water. They flushed the hydrants.
Right,
I've done
right.
about 30 tests, sent them over to Orange County, and they said, good to go. So we're back good.
So it's a piece of historical equipment, because I know you're upgrading the system now, aren't you? Or is that done?
Well, okay. Actually, to the chlorinator, that's been done a while back. I don't think we're upgrading that again. I think we're in good shape there. It's only a small pump. It's unfortunate the way it failed.
Yeah,
What are you gonna
yeah,
do?
yeah.
Little things mean a lot sometimes.
It's true. That's it.
All
Thanks.
right. All right, thank you, Bill. Anyone else, Bobby?
John Cornell.
I see John out there who's on this board for a while, 2 years ago. Do you have anything to say, John, or not? You gotta unmute yourself if you do. There you are.
Just wanted to say hello to everyone, nothing else.
Very good. All right, good to see you and hear from you, John. Anyone else with anything?
Heather Bellmaker.
Heather Bell? Heather, you got something? You could unmute yourself, Heather?
I did not have anything to say, but I will say thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure to have lunch today with Scott and Joe, and I really appreciate the invite. You will be seeing more of me.
Very good, Heather. Thank you for tuning in. If that's the right thing to say, I guess so. This is like TV without the commercials.
It is.
So, all right. Anyone else, Bobby?
I just got Carliello.
Carla, do you have something to say? If you do, unmute yourself, please.
And if she doesn't unmute, we got Kay D'Alessandro. Oh,
I'll just say
Carla.
hello.
Okay.
I don't know if you can hear me.
We can hear you.
That's it.
All right.
The last one is Kay D'Alessandro.
Hello to you. Who's the last one, Bobby?
Kay D'Alessandro.
Kay D'Alessandro, if you want to unmute yourself. If you have something to say, fine. If not, that's okay too.
I think they're passing. So I
He's
think that's
passing?
it. Yeah.
Okay. So if we heard all the comments for tonight, if someone will make a motion to adjourn,
So move.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn at 7:27. Mrs. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes.
Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Mobiando,
Yes.
and Mr. Piaquadio.
yes, and thank you, everyone. Have a
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.